I know for sure that the practice likes the GP, the conversation with the GP best. But if the other auditors are doing a good job, they just have a different perspective. And that sometimes is nice too, because, well, you know each other, and then we're talking about diabetes again and again, but they have another perspective, and some of them are more coaches, so they have a little bit difficulty, because they are auditors and not in their role as a coach, but they can give some advice about the team, for instance, or they have a conversation on a higher level, I've never heard many protests, but if they turn to the lesser meaningful items of the feedback analysis, then the doctors goes down. Then if they are talking too much about procedures, etc., then the doctors think, okay, let him go, or she, and in about an hour she'll be gone, and I have my certificate. And
So the visitor team is 1 or 2 or 3 persons, or how?
Depending on the size of the practice.
Just one.
Just one.
We started with 2 or 3 for a big practice, but that was too costly. It's now just one person.
But if the doctor and the auditor do not agree on the things, if there is only one auditor, what do you do?
Then they send the questions back to the bureau, and we, because we have now quite clear requirements. So if the content of the protocol was not okay, we said, well, we didn't say about the content anything, so you can tell the practice that you think the content is not okay, but the practice can still have their accreditation. But then we had always the auditors that like the standards and the auditors that are quite flexible, and it's quite difficult to have them all in the same
lead.
Isn't that a problem?
That's a problem, and the practices are pointed against each other too. Because they say, well, he had something and the auditor said it was all right, and now I'm here, and this board is telling me that it's not okay.
When you have kind of discussions about these procedures, and when practices find it difficult to write smart improvement plans, how do you think about them starting to write a risk analysis?
Well, we make a
risk analysis is really, it's difficult, it's extremely difficult, and if a smart improvement plan is already difficult, then I foresee many more difficulties in a risk analysis, and it's a different way of looking and thinking, and wasn't it, well, you made a pretty big change in doing this practice accreditation. Wasn't it maybe easier for practices who are already in the system to make small adaptations instead of teaching them how to write risk analysis?
What we're doing now is we're giving practices the choice. They can stay within the old system, or they can start with this new system.
During 3 years, of course.
For this coming period, just to pilot how difficult it can be, what you need, and we try to make more and more supportive materials available on the website. So the college will try to support the practices, and the certifying body will do the auditing. That's the ground idea. But yeah, I think you're completely right. If you see how difficult it is to make improvement plans and stick to the improvement plans, well, yeah, then a risk analysis is another type of business.
Do they get some help on what things they have to stay the risk on?
Yeah. We make a list of questions for them so that at least they can be aware of what risks or what areas are containing possible risks.
So triage and accessibility and equity and prescriptions, repeat prescriptions, referrals, those are of course the main areas of danger.
One practical question. So that the practices pays in advance? In the beginning of the process they pay the whole sum for 3 years?
Yeah.
No, I think for 1 year. But they agree with the contract that they will pay the whole amount of money, even if they will never have their accreditation.
Yeah.
That's trust.
Oh, that's really trust.
Yeah, that you are going to get through the process.
Yeah, there are some practices who just don't
They will
get
never
through the
get there,
process. They
no.
never get there.
No.
They,
Then there are so many troubles, I think, especially within the team
yeah,
or with the data collection. Some of them, well,
just don't get there. Yeah.
Something can happen. Well, I have a colleague who's been sick leave for 6 months. So if you are in this program for 3 years, then I think we have to go stand by for some time in this period.
Yeah.
External thing can happen, but it's difficult.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody can go and trial and
Yeah, yeah. In those small-scale organizations, changes in the context might be a big effect on the result. Yeah. Okay. Where are we, Margriet? Do we have any
At the
answers
end?
to our
We
questions?
have to start small discussion groups now.
we are one step.
That's why we come.
Where are the small
Without names.
Okay.
We always talk about our
Anything else to be brought up, or do we?
Maybe we could go back to the question and see if there's something that we didn't talk about.
well, I think we had a lot of this.
This is very important for the size of the practice.
Yeah, I
Is
think
your
so.
system enough flexible to have some excuse for single-site practices, for example?
I think
No, I don't think we have different procedures for different practice organizations, because that's what you're asking.
The number of indicators, is that
Not the same.
Because, for example, you have practice which is a part of the polyclinic, of the building, there are other specialists, other possibilities, so then the
medical support,
equipment,
yeah.
the equipment and the way of the process of delivering care is different than in the single-handed practice somewhere in the rural area, so that we have this flexibility included in the system, and some standards are not necessary to be met in the single-handed practices.
well, this accreditation is only for the day practice. We have another kind of system for the out-of-hours service. They have their own system, and that's more for the procedures. But because they serve more large patient groups, they have to regulate more processes.
It's more ISO oriented, eh?
Yeah.
But do you recommend it that we would have different sets of standards for different practice sizes and practice?
We just some standard, there is some excuse for the single-handed practices, so some standards not have to be met because it's logical that they are somehow issued by the other system within the polyclinical.
Can you give an example of the poly?
I can give one. I think if the proposed Danish organization standards is, we could describe the procedure for appointing new personnel. And if you're a single-handed practice with one nurse, how often, and if I write the procedure today and I just have to appoint a new nurse, and maybe I have to do so in 10 years, how fair, what is the meaning of making a standard written down procedure and what's taken in account and making a profile of what I want, and maybe make a new appointment in 10 years could be a completely different world, completely different profile. So if you go in this kind of detail in your indicators, then there may be some, it doesn't make any sense in small single-handed practice.
No, but, for instance, we're making, we should say, a set of questions, at least, about practice equipment. And I think we were pretty, we made the same levels from things every practice should have, things that are advisable and things that are completely optional. And I think we have a lot of agreement on what every practice should have, even in rural. And perhaps the rural practices have to have more equipment because they have to do more themselves before their equipment.
But then there's always the discussion if the pharmacist is nearby, because when the pharmacist is nearby, you should have everything. Or can you go on?
Yeah.
Just
Come then, I think what kind of standards you define. If you take some starting points that all practice should have the same standards, then it makes some limitations of what kind of standards you choose.
Yeah,
So I
like,
think
like the example you
Well,
made.
yes, and
yeah.
I think it's that. If you want to
Clear.
we're a very broad range of indicators, then I think you have to make some exceptions, which can be quite natural.
Can imagine.
Often, I think.
Yeah, but on the other hand, then you're less dependent on the person who is the auditor in your practice.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that could be preferable.
We're going to
Not,
send you to the coffee. Thanks very much.